and then we shovel a tunnel through the snow. So it's in our best interest to get a pathway for our customers to get through. So I already do that whenever the timing's off, and it's not any additional money for me because I have a guy, he comes, he shovels my sidewalk. If there's a snow mound, he shovels through it. So I'm not too worried. If it gets really high, I feel like we need that alternative of, is there a lot that maybe DPW makes that call? It's a dangerous situation, we need to get out there, and they move it. So that was my first thought. I also really like the idea in the short term of using a parking lot that you put the filtration over the drain. I talked with Cheryl Nennan from the River Keepers organization, and that was her top recommendation. Even long term, she thought as long as it drains and is either through a filtration system or to MMSD. I know MMSD doesn't want us draining more water to there because of the flood, when we have high rains. So in the long run, we do have a parking utility. That parking utility has a very good reserve balance. I know MMSD has told Rebecca and I at the last meeting they want us to start doing pervious pavers or some sort of infiltration with their grant money, along with our utility money. We could do that a parking lot, one of our parking lots. That would be a green solution that we haven't done yet. We have the funding in our utility, so it doesn't affect our expenditure limit or expenditure restraint. And again, it would be filtrating into a soil, whether it's at River Park, where the kids play, or whether it's over by Wilson, where people are going to be walking more and using that natural area now that we have plans, long-term plans for it. I also am not in favor of distributing it either at Wilson or at Menlo, and the reason I say that is that's just pitting one part of our neighborhood against the other. Nobody wants the snow in their backyard, and so we've been complaining about on the west side of Oakland, and I don't like it on Wilson, and I'm not going to say, well, you should put it on Menlo, because what is that doing? When it's your turn to take it? I mean, if we have another solution, I think we really should be looking at that for the sake of our neighborhoods. And I would like to know, well, I guess that's it for now. So I guess my preference at the moment, until we get some more data, is to really understand if we can put it on one of our parking lots, how many spaces it would take, and then can we accommodate that on street temporarily or through hardship parking?
We'll have that analysis for the 17th. And even if we have it before the packet, we'll try to get it to you in advance too. So, I just want to make sure you know there's 5 more minutes before we have to move on.
And I am going to call them public, so that's okay with the board. Trustee McKay.
And if we could hear from the businesses that might be impacted by the removal of those spaces.
You mean tonight or?
By the 17th. So like Harry's or, whatever it is. And then the 4400 block of Oakland.
Thank you. Just going on that, I know the business improvement director is here. There were letters mailed out to it. I got one as a business by the village, and then I did watch and got notices from the business district that this was being discussed tonight. But I agree, if no one's here, I think we should reach out again. Trustee Warren.
And I just have one real quick question, maybe this could be included with the materials for the next session. But to put a fine point on it, we discussed snow coming from the business district, the village parking lots, and the alleys and the crosswalks. I'd like if we could have a breakdown of what percentage of the snow comes from each. I think that would be helpful if we can get a decision.
We'll try to give you a rough estimate.
Yeah, I think that's
Yep.
good enough.
Yep.
Trustee Martin.
And if you could find any, I know we may not have a lab analysis of the snow, but if there's any like EPA reports or just general background information on what's in urban snow from an earth, there's got to be.
Well, and I think Cheryl Nenn coming, she'll be able to speak to that a little bit. And then, I know we've had a number of conservation committee members that have done some research on that. And not all could attend tonight, so maybe we'll ask 1 or 2 of those individually to come to the 17th as well.
Thank you. If there's no other questions at this time, I'd like to open it up. Oh, Trustee McKay? Nope. Okay. I'd like to open it up to the public, and when I would ask you if the clerk has made a request that when you are called upon, could you come to the microphone, just state your name and your address.
Hi, I'm CJ Rival. I live at 2225 East Menlo Boulevard. One thing, Vita had asked the question about snow melt the same as rain. From the Conservation Committee's report, they state, quote, "One crucial factor is to keep snow melt and snow storage away from areas where children will play due to lead contamination and sharp debris such as metal and glass." That's not the same thing as rainfall. Also from the Conservation Committee's report, please note that snow from parking lots and streets in that category separate from the business district, in addition to high levels of salt, will also have heavy metals, street trash, and other contaminants. And I think that speaks to your point about why it shouldn't be in any neighborhood, Menlo or Wilson. One question I had actually was the summary letter that was dated June 7th that initially spoke about the different options, mentioned this, and it's not in the letter that you received. So I'm curious as to what happened in between there. Perhaps the question has already been answered, but there's no indication of that. The earlier letter dated June 7th says, Menlo, quote, "Menlo is in a combined sewer area, so potential for MMSD not to support this plan as it increases the burden on treatment infrastructure and may also increase risk of backups." And so the question I have is in between the two drafts of the letter, the one you got, which doesn't say that, and the earlier one, has MMSD already signed off on this plan if it's a combined sewer area? If not, have they been asked or notified? I just drove here from my house, but biked home through a small torrential rainstorm. And just a short rainstorm caused the sewers on Edgewood and Stratford to fill up, and the streets were flooded. I worry about what would happen if you're putting more snow on Menlo when it's going to be
I can address part of that, and if staff wants to. Speaking with, I don't know if staff's spoken with MMSD, but speaking with Cheryl Nennan from the River Keepers, this, and from our own staff, if you look at our engineer's report, that's counterbalanced with the fact that snow melts very slowly usually, and so it's like a trickle of rain. That's what I've been told. And so there's no real danger unless you have bright, quick snow melt. It looks bigger, but it's actually not a lot of water. So that's what I've been told, and there wasn't any concern from those two individuals. In addition, Milwaukee stores all their snow on asphalt, so, or at least most, I don't want to be misquoted, but I did speak with the Department of Public Works Commissioner, and that just retired, or got another job, and that's their recommended practice as well, because it does drain and get treated. So it's kind of I think that my assumption is it was taken out just because our own engineer said it wasn't going to be a problem. Do you have further?
That discussion was very similar discussion that the Conservation Committee, I know, had during their June meeting on this topic. When Mustafa will come on the 17th, he will give you more information, kind of, probably also could provide a perspective from an MMSD perspective, and I'll make sure tomorrow I'll send him an email saying that that's kind of a point that a resident inquired about to touch on.
And the only reason I mention that is because there is a parking lot that's under consideration as well, and that's east of Oakland, and it would drain to MMSD. So not necessarily because it's Menlo, I'm just saying in general. Yes.
Michal Wall, I live at 2400 East Stratford Court, which is actually one of those points that floods after every rain. And I hadn't even thought about what happens with snow melt. So what really, the biggest issue with snow melt is when there's a rain, a warmer rain. It sounds like we're seeing a lot of warm and cooling. But I didn't even want to, I have a question. What I want to do is suggest that everyone take a really good look at that neighborhood before the 17th. I think the really big issue with Menlo, and I know that we're trying to create a beautiful space and some more natural space on Wilson Drive, so we don't want to put snow there. This is a small strip of grass in the middle of a very active and somewhat dense neighborhood, especially if you look at Menlo itself. Looks like it has some nice big houses and yards. Stratford Court is very dense, and actually the other blocks around there are at least 50% duplexes. This is an area that families and children use year-round. They sled, they play, their dogs are out. So if you can imagine this area that's actually a play space, and it's a small strip with essentially one lane of road between the strip and all the housing. So it's really right in the middle of the neighborhood, and will impact our ability to use it in the winter. And once the snow does melt, and all of that remediation has to be done, possibly year-round. So I think there's a lot to lose, and I'm really encouraged that Allison and others are feeling much more compelled to think about a concrete or asphalt base. But if you think about your questions about, like, wow, what's left in the parking lot? If the snow melts, imagine what's being left in the grass, which is actually kept up and beautifully landscaped every year by the village. So take a good look at it and really just sort of, if you're not, I'm sure you're all very familiar with the village, but really visit the neighborhood the next couple of weeks if it's still on the agenda.
Thank you. And that just brought up, I forgot to just mention that Cheryl Ninan recommended the asphalt, and once all that stuff is left, the bigger components, you sweep it up with your
Right,
vacuum
you
sweeper.
can't do it off the grass.
Right. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Oh, and then the gentleman in blue.
Hi, Paul Zovic, 2504 East Newton Avenue. I am a scientist, I am an engineer, and for the last 35 years I've been doing all manner of environmental consulting. I have a couple of things that have moved me to speak tonight. First, when we talk about toxicity, when we talk about impact to the river, I think we need to get the whole story. You know, when we talk about how terrible it is what we've done at Wilson Drive with salt storage and all the chemicals that go there and get to the river. Well, a couple of minutes and some back of the envelope calculation says it's about 150 plus years for those contaminants to travel that far. So I just don't want us to get, to start thinking that we're killing our kids and killing our fish and killing a river no matter what we do. Secondly, with respect to the notion of using Menlo as a storage area, you know, Menlo was originally an entrance to a grand golf course country club. That's a landscaped area. The soils there are in much better condition than the back of the railroad right-of-way that we had on Wilson Drive. And I say that because if we start to use that for snow storage, the sheer weight of the snow for the months and months that it will be there, and the years that will be there, will change the nature of that area in terms of its ability to allow rainfall, even a normal rainfall, to permeate. It will change the look. I dare say I think it will be much more costly, the remediation or the post-winter fix-up than we might see on Wilson Drive. But the bigger thing I want to say tonight to you is to encourage you all to stop thinking about the end of the pipe. We're talking about snow as a necessary evil. We're talking about our responsibility to do something with this evil snow. Where can we put this evil snow that will do the least amount of damage? Well, why don't we make it less evil? Why don't we try to figure out ways to have businesses use less salt? Why do we have to remove all of the snow? It was months ago I recall hearing a report on snow plowing somewhere, and the point was made about our community's need to have bare pavement just a few hours after snowfall, and clean sidewalks just a few hours after the snowfall. And I challenge you all to think about those policies and encouraging people to use less salt and clear less area as opposed to simply finding out a best place to deal with this nasty mess. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris Schreiber, 2516 East Metal Boulevard. I won't take too much of your time, and I really appreciate everybody's participation and questions tonight. And I'm just here to give a little bit of perspective from a resident of Menlo. We are on the easternmost boulevard, one house in off the downer. And from a practical standpoint, during heavy snowfall, when either side of Menlo is plowed, the snow piles on Menlo are already very high. And so it's a little bit of a safety issue as well, because remember, for us on the north side of Menlo, I can't get east without driving around one of the cut-throughs. And so it's difficult already to see. And remember too, we've got Downer as an intersection, Prospect as an intersection, Maryland as an intersection. These are not quiet streets. There's active traffic coming and going, and Menlo, kind of as an east-west corridor, is not a quiet street either in a certain respect. And so, just from a pure safety standpoint, the more snow you pile, when the snow piles there are already very high in the winter, it can be a real challenge. From a practicality standpoint, as far as a taxpayer, I haven't heard that the Menlo splitting proposal actually solves the problem. The spreadsheet that was available shows a $26,000 annual cost to continue dumping snow on Wilson. And staff comments say, village received comments from residents not wanting snow located there. Well, I think you have the same problem.